Colin. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Well, look, we had an update a week ago on our longest ever research project, which is the true cost of food waste or food surplus. And it's been authored by Professor Lisa Jack. And the time, I suppose, has been consumed with waiting for data from retailers. But we've got to a point now where we think we need to publish something. And so we had a sort of workshop stroke meeting um, where we had about sort of 40 or 50 retailers show up, food waste experts, and listen to perhaps the conclusions that Lisa was coming to. She's a professor of accounting. It was quite complicated, quite in depth. But we had then had a discussion around, where was this heading? What would be the conclusions? How would retailers be able to use the conclusions of the data and perhaps a model? And so, what were your thoughts on what took place? And are you excited for this new report that's coming out? We hope in September.
Yeah, indeed. It was a great presentation, and I always think that it's good when you think about the participants that are on that call and they're from varying functions. That's always helpful because when we're now looking at the full end-to-end cost of this, is that it includes so many people and so many decision makers. So I think having those people across the board and having some feedback from them really helps drive this forward. I think there's one of my thoughts on that was that there's a slight invisible instigator of food waste as well, which may need to come into that spreadsheet, which is around the perception of consumer demand on availability. So you will always have an amount of food surplus left over due to trying to make sure that you've got full availability at all times. So I think that may need to come back into that as a part of that full calculation, and really just sort of like facing into the fact that we will need to have some surplus due to availability on case sizes, etc., etc. But the whole report, obviously, and its intent is to give us that data back so that you can make informed decisions on case sizes and whether or not it's a product that's worth stocking anymore within those retailers. So I think the interesting thing is as well is that when you drive through that, what we're talking about and that mixed audience there is that really what we're getting to is that we should be able to deliver on the financial benefits of reducing food waste, food surplus, and the environmental benefits alike. And many of the retailers now talking quite openly about how important it is about the price, the cost versus the weight being the environmental measure and the cost being the sort of business profitability. And I think the closer we can get to understanding both those parts, is that you'll make some real good decisions on what it is that we really need to do to drive this down.
Yeah, no, we talked a lot about the various costs associated with, donations and with marking down labor costs,
Yes.
having an app and etc. One of the things that was really interesting, and I know you picked up on it, was this piece around unexplained loss and whether that should be included in the true cost of food surplus. Certainly, in my experience working on the newspapers and magazines category, we knew that if you had a lot of surplus, there would be much more likely to have high levels of unexplained losses. So that's typically, 45% of all magazines in the UK at least sent to stores get sent back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know whether you've sort of, in your experience and what you thought about that, because it was quite an interesting area of discussion.
Yeah. Well, I think in some of this, when we look at it, I guess some of this data going back will be really beneficial to feed and play back to the commercial teams. And I think when you talk about it in that way, that the overall loss, no matter whether it's unknown loss, known loss, should be played back because it's all part of operating as a business and stocking that line inside the retailer. So I think any loss, or whether it's explained, unexplained, is that it should all come back into that equation because it's part of the overall cost of serving that product to customers. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think in whatever way that comes about in this final report, I think it's definitely beneficial.
Yeah, no, there was another metric, wasn't there, about how much volume, or the volume that's sold, at markdown below the cost of goods. Again, that's a sort of
Yeah,
quite a scary number for some
yeah,
particular items. Again, pushes that focus on assortment.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to look at that, because there'll be some products that maybe you'd make a decision not to sell them if you know your overall profitability is gone below that marker. You wouldn't stock that anymore. But then again, there are some footfall drivers. I think we've mentioned before, when you look at, you know, tubs of sweets, you know, they don't very rarely make any money anymore. They sell them so cheaply, but it gets people to come into the shop. So I think, you know, there are some of those, but I don't think that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about if we're ending up having to reduce it, and all that is hidden from the commercial teams and buying teams, they might think that they're selling a lot of product and it's a great product to stock, but actually we're not making very much money on.
Yeah, so this whole, yeah, so I suppose your point is, you know, the visibility, providing that full visibility to the true cost end
Yeah.
to end, you know, will lead to probably better decisions, but also, I guess, help justify investments as well.
Yes, yeah. And I can, you know, sort of visualize these conversations that the buying teams have with the suppliers, you know, and being able to play back that data. It doesn't mean to say it's a stick to say, well, we don't want to stock it anymore. You know, the suppliers might make some different decisions. Again, going back to case sizes, you know, product pack sizes.
Yeah, shelf life. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, well, look, very, very good. Well, we're looking forward to the reports. I mean, it has been 4 years, but we've been promised something in September. So let's see if it's September 2024 or
yeah.
another date. But Professor Lee, as you said, did a really great job there, and we look forward to seeing that. So thanks for taking the time, Richard, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. See you next time. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you. Thank you.